Hey everyone, I'm here today. I'm Janet Johnson here today with Kimmy, the social media puppet, of course. We have Kimmy here.
Hi everybody.
And then we are also have a special guest, and his name is Josh Turner. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, thanks Janet. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're honored to have you. And we're looking forward to talking today about how to generate leads to your business and grow your business using webinars. And it sounds like you really have a great background on this. But what I want to do first is give a little bit of background and have Kimmy do it. Give a little bit of background about you, Josh.
Okay.
Hey Josh, before we get started, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Have you ever been interviewed by a puppet before?
I only do interviews with puppets, actually.
Huh.
No,
Well, we are
this is the first time.
Honored to have you on our show. Everybody,
Okay.
I'd like to introduce you to Josh Turner. He's the founder of Linked Selling, a B2B marketing firm specializing in fully outsourced lead generation campaigns, as well as Webinarli.com. And they specialize in webinar lead generation. His company represents clients in the United States, Canada, UK, Asia, and Australia in a wide variety of industries. Josh's company also operates LinkedUniversity.com, an online training program for LinkedIn marketing, as well as Webinar University, where you can learn how to grow your business using webinars. He's been featured in the Huffington Post, Miami Herald, and many, many more national publications. So welcome to the show today, Josh.
Thanks, Kimmy. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Well, first off, I want to get started with mentioning I'm going to be looking this way quite a bit just to see if anybody's commenting.
Sure.
We were setting up the comment tracker. All of those Hangout people know how that works. I was new to it right now, so that's why I'm looking over, and I will be watching to anybody that's commenting. Feel free, and I will be paying attention to that. So first off, let's talk about how you got started with the webinar business, with teaching about webinars.
Yep, sure. So I first started using webinars for my business very early on as a way to simply generate more leads. And that was when my business, I was working out of the house as a outsourced CFO, working for other small businesses here in St. Louis. And I started playing around with using webinars to just spread the word and build brand awareness and generate some leads and position myself as an expert in what I was doing. And so that's when I first really started realizing the power of using webinars. And at the same time, I had also seen a lot of the big internet marketers out there doing a lot of amazing things with webinars. And fast forward a little bit to when the company changed and Linked Selling, we created about 2011 and started really focusing on helping businesses all around the world run lead generation campaigns specifically within LinkedIn. And in addition to utilizing LinkedIn to grow our business, one of the other, it was really right up there with LinkedIn in terms of sources of generating new leads for our business was webinars. And so between Linked Selling and our online training program, Linked University, we quickly got to the point where we were generating several thousand leads a month for our business using webinars. And so, to answer your question in a bit of a long-winded way, that's kind of how we got started with it.
Oh, great answer. I mean, that's it's basically you started because it was documented already that it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we put in blood, sweat, and tears, and threw a lot of money down the toilet trying things that didn't work, and just years of grinding it out to really figure out a model that made sense. And so that's a big part of Webinarli, is taking all the knowledge we've built around how do we make this whole webinar thing really work, and helping our clients do that as well.
Now, what kind of businesses would you suggest for, like, would a Kimmy salon owner business be good for using webinars? What types would be best?
Probably not. No, I don't think the salon owner, I don't think Kimmy the puppet's going to need, going to be using webinars. So if you're Well, Kimmy, if you're just really passionate about positioning yourself as a leader in your space, in your industry, then it could be something you want to look at. So let's say, for example, though, you're a salon owner and you've got a really great model for running your business, and you want to spread the word to other salon owners and position yourself kind of as an expert in that space, then webinars would be a fantastic tool, all right, because you can use them to share content with your audience. I mean, it's essentially like speaking in front of an audience of the most targeted prospects for your business. And, you know, there's a lot of great things you can do to really scale it in huge ways that you could never achieve with an in-person speaking event unless you had huge amounts of money, you know.
Well,
And so,
you know, I think it would work really well as I get into coaching other salon owners on how to build their salon. And so I could connect not just with customers, but with clients that have salons, and it's a good collaboration tool.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So those are the kinds of businesses and people that webinars make a lot of sense for, and it's mostly if you're going to be targeting other people within the business world, right? So, for example, there are B2C applications for it, but certainly if you own a retail establishment, that's not going to be the best fit, you know. But if you've got a business where your customers are hanging out online and want to consume content online, and you can find and target them in places like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, via email, you know, Google, those kinds of things, then it can make a lot of sense.
Can you expand on that a little bit? And like, how would let's just use her example still, that she wants to target other salon owners. What would be the best way to target and find those other salon owners?
Sure. So the first, there's a few different things that I would do in that case, and it would be probably a combination of Facebook and LinkedIn advertising combined with more organic outreach via LinkedIn and email. And maybe a little bit of Google AdWords too for people that are typing things in like keywords related to salons and wanting to improve their businesses in some way. Maybe marketing for salon owners and things like that, or coaching for salon owners would be highly targeted. So you'd want to be in that space too. But you know, within Facebook, you can target based on all sorts of things, like what do these people do, what kind of industries are they in, what kind of jobs do they have. So you can target salon owners on Facebook like that. Of course, within LinkedIn, you can target based on people's titles and any other things that they are putting into their profiles. And so you can show ads to those people. And so then what's the next step? What are those ads going to say? Well, those ads are going to basically be speaking directly to them, saying something like, if you're a salon owner and you're looking for some ideas to improve the performance of your business, you need to attend our upcoming webinar where you're going to learn boom, 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 boom. And then you're bullet pointing the things that you're going to teach them on this free webinar. Okay, and then that ad's going to send them to a landing page that's going to reiterate what was said in the ad, provide a little bit more detail about who you are, why you're qualified to talk to them about this topic and what they're going to learn. Maybe throw in some bonuses that they'll get by attending. And then you've got the date and time of the webinar, and then you host the webinar. Give them the good content, and at the end of the webinar, hopefully you've got an offer for either a product that they can buy right then and there. In the info product world, that's what you would do. Or if you're more of if all you're offering is coaching, which is fine, then you can position those services. So while we're talking about how this funnel works, let me just go a little bit one step further too, because in some cases people do webinars. They see, I had a lot of people on, and I put the offer out there. I told people about my services, but I didn't really get many people contacting me to take me up on the offer. And one of the things that we've seen work ridiculously well is picking up the phone and calling people. So if you're a coach that is teaching salon owners how to be better business owners, how to grow their practice, how to grow their salon clientele, how to be more efficient to improve their profitability, any of the things you might be teaching them as a coach in that space, maybe your retainer for coaching clients could be anything, but let's just say it's $1,000 a month, and for that they get a few hours of your time. Okay, that kind of a scenario. If you can call the people that were on the webinar, okay, that attended and heard the message, and then review the list of those people after the webinar, all right, and then pick up the phone and give them a call, you know, and by doing that and reaching out to them and personally extending the offer, that's how you're going to start closing more business off of it. So if you, in the info product space, such as our business Linked University, which we sell the program similar to how, you know, a lot of internet marketers sell their training programs. We can sell directly off of webinars. In the high-priced services space, it can be done, but more people require a bit of a personal touch. So you have to be willing to sell a little bit too.
Well, and I do believe that in this day and age, there's so much technology and so much emphasis on online marketing that people are forgetting that people really like to talk to a real person. They might just do their discovery online, they might get information online, but it is the person-to-person phone call or meeting that's going to close those high-end sales for sure.
Yep. And if you dig into some of the programs by some of the most well-known marketers on the planet, and I don't need to name drop because they're not even friends of mine. These are just things that I've learned by following them. That they're doing that. That's how they're generating their most of their business into their highest price programs. And it doesn't mean that the guy at the top is making the calls. Now he might have somebody else on his team that's calling on behalf, at least making the first call to maybe set up a short meeting with him to see if it makes sense. You know, and we do it in my company. You know, each of the I have 2 people in my company that are strictly responsible for working with new clients and bringing in new business into our company. And every week they have a quota of reaching out to this many people that attended one of our webinars in the last few weeks. And that's a great way to generate more business from them.
And what services do you like to use when you do your webinars?
Well, we use GoToMeeting almost exclusively because it's kind of the gold standard. People are used to it. It works well, and it doesn't fail us. You know,
very reliable. Yep, I use that myself.
It is, and there's other options. And early on, when like I said, I was working out of my house when I first started doing webinars, and not that I was broke or anything, but my budget was still. I wasn't looking to spend a ton of money on stuff that I was just trying for the first time. And GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar at $100 a month. I was thinking, well, maybe there's another option that's not going to be so much that I can try out. And I found a couple that were free, and they were a disaster. They just didn't work well. And then to the prospects that you've put all this time and energy in bringing to the webinar, and you're not putting your best foot forward when you have technical issues and the webinar platform doesn't function properly. So at a minimum, if you're going to try and use something else, make sure you test it beforehand and practice, and make sure that you're comfortable with how it's working, and that, for lack of a better term, that it's not janky, because you don't want your prospects thinking you're janky.
I like janky. That's fine. Yeah. Great word. So what do you think about like those webinar systems that are with the Hangouts? I know the Google Hangouts we talked about can have some issues to overcome, but have you heard about some of those systems?
Sure. It's not, and Google Hangouts keeps getting better and better, and a lot of people like those systems because they come with a one-time fee, and there's some other nice things built into them. And without naming names, though, I know there are some there's some non-starters, if you will, for my business that make it not an option to use those. One of the more popular ones, there's a delay time between the audio and the screen presentation. And as far as I know, as of right now, they have not fixed that. And so that's one that we don't use. Now, on the other hand, so as part of Webinar University, we do each month at least one webinar funnel breakdown where we go out and find a really smart marketer that's doing really creative things with webinars, and we break down the whole funnel from the first ad we saw on Facebook that was promoting it, through the email sequence to the webinar itself, to the follow-up sequence to the sales pages. And one guy who's doing a great job utilizing Google Hangouts is John Lee Dumas. And so if you want to see somebody that's got the Google Hangout webinar thing figured out, he definitely does.
Yeah, he does one every week, doesn't he?
He does with his Podcaster's Paradise workshops. And so I've taken a very close look at how he does all that, and it's very well done. So if you want to use Google Hangouts, I would look to what he's doing as the gold standard there. And one of the big benefits is that the Google Hangouts, and what you'll see with what he does is that it allows you to interact with your audience at the level like we're doing right now between Janet and Kimmy and I. Whereas GoToWebinar has a webcam component to it that you can use, but that is not their sweet spot. So that's not their core competency. So if you want to be on video during your presentations and webinars, then look into what John's doing, and that could be a good fit for you.
Nice, good. That's a really good opinion. Now,
Joshua,
I have a real quick question because I want to go backwards. You were mentioning calling afterwards. So when a lot of people have people opt in for their webinars, they have them put a name and email. So I kind of want to back this up because most people aren't collecting the phone numbers.
Sure.
So you're suggesting that we collect phone numbers also, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not. Yes and no. Let me say that.
Okay.
So here's the thing. You don't want to ask for too much information because it turns people off. Exactly what you were just saying, Janet. And so one of the things that I've seen done very well is after you get their first name and email to get the opt-in, so you got them, they're locked in, then on the next thank you page, have an option for them to enter their phone number. And it might say something like, hey, if you'd like a reminder sent to you via text before the webinar, enter your phone number here, and we'll do that for you. And that's a good way to get those people to give you their number. And so you're not going to get all of them because you're not requiring it. But at the end of the day, I want the opt-ins whether I get the phone number or not. So for the prospects that seem good, and I want to call these people, but I don't have their phone number, well, I'm going to have a virtual assistant overseas that's working at a pretty modest rate. I'm going to have them go out based on the person's name and email and find their phone number, and that's a very cheap and efficient way to then get your lists appended with phone numbers if you don't have them already.
Good idea.
Great tips. Go ahead, Kim. You had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, I know you have another side of your business, and that's linked selling, because that's how Webinarli came about.
Yeah.
And it's focused on helping people grow their business using LinkedIn. Can you talk a little bit about webinars and how that played into that business, or about linked selling?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So any business, I think that's growing is going to have more than one trick up their sleeve, and that's just, successful businesses have a marketing mix, and they call it a marketing mix because it's not, if it was just one thing, they'd call it a marketing one thing, right? And so, we have always been looking for what other things can we add to our arsenal of things that we do to grow our business. And so in addition to the work we were doing on LinkedIn, webinars quickly became one of the things that we realized we were good at and was generating great results for us. And so how it's integrated with the other business is that we use LinkedIn campaigns to promote webinars. We use webinars to promote services. It's all kind of intertwined. The whole ecosystem of the marketing that we do is kind of integrated in that kind of a way. And with the clients that we help, that can be the case too, because in the B2B world, LinkedIn is where it's at. And for our clients who are doing webinars, LinkedIn is the primary place that we're promoting their webinars. You know, and so that's one of the key ways that the two work hand in hand together. And if you go to linkedselling.com, you'll see that our philosophy is that if you take the time to build the relationship with a prospect before you try and go for the sale, that your response rate will increase dramatically. And it's what we call our process is systematically building relationships to convert cold prospects into warm leads. And utilizing webinars and nurture campaigns is perfectly aligned with that philosophy. And the same thing applies to webinars in that if after a webinar you call somebody right away and say, hey, buy my coaching program, and you're thinking, well, Josh said call them, that's not the right approach. You want to nurture them and take time to position yourself properly to build the relationship before you do that. You know, and so specifically, what does that mean? Well, maybe after the webinar, you don't call them that day. You know, maybe you build out a bit of an email nurture campaign to really position yourself the right way in front of these people, so that it's not until a few weeks later that you pick up the phone to call them, and by that point, they know you got the goods. You know, and they trust you, and you've really taken the time to position yourself as you know, one of the good guys, if you will.
That's awesome. And you know, you're doing this on behalf of your clients, correct? So this is a service that you offer.
It is, yes. Yeah, so for anyone that wants to know more about that, you can go to Webinarli.com, and you know, how it's done gets, you know, is different for every situation, but for clients that feel like it makes sense for them, there's usually a model that we can use to try and help them get more out of webinars or start doing webinars for the first time.
Now, what would you say the benefits are of doing it themselves versus hiring a company?
I'm sorry, what is the question again?
What would the benefits be of hiring a company versus people just trying to do it themselves? Are there benefits, downfalls to it, you know, pluses and minuses?
Sure. Yeah. So the downfall of doing it yourself, and this is what we have heard time and time again from everybody we talk to, is that, well, I'm afraid that I'm going to put this webinar together and spend all this time building the PowerPoint and trying to market it and everything, and no one's going to show up, because most people don't understand how to drive traffic to their landing pages to get targeted prospects to sign up so that enough of them actually attend. And that's the thing that most businesses need most help with. Most people we talk to will say, you know, I think I can create the presentation myself. And oftentimes they'll say, we'd like you guys to maybe take a look at it and give us your thoughts, but we can handle creating it. But we want you guys to set up the system and then to help us with the ongoing promotion and marketing of it so that it's worth putting in this time to do this webinar. You know, and there's just a lot of people put webinars together and try and go through the effort of doing it, and they'll get a couple people to show up, and then they just never do it again because it's not worth the time at that point.
That makes a lot of sense, and something I think everybody can relate to. I'm sure, you know, people that have done webinars, I mean, including us, you know, have had that situation where just absolutely, you know, it's a hustle, and I'll be, you know, I do this stuff a lot too, and it's a hustle to not only be promoting, trying to get people there, but then in addition to creating that entire presentation, you know, and then after the fact, that constant follow up to make sure that you. So I get what you're saying. It's a ton of work.
Sure.
And so you can streamline that time into it.
Yeah, and the other thing we help our clients do is that we take the work off their plate at a certain point, because we never recommend that you just do a webinar and then that's it. We always recommend that you build that webinar and do that first webinar, that next webinar, with the thought in mind that we're going to put this thing on autopilot for you afterwards so that it continues running in the background for you and generating new leads on an ongoing basis. You know, and so for our company, I mean, we have automated webinars running behind the scenes that target all sorts of different industries and have different topics and things like that. And it would be impossible for me to deliver them all live all the time. And so that's another huge benefit. And whether or not you work with a company like mine to set that up, I would highly recommend people think about things that way, because it makes it so much more worth it when it becomes this marketing asset that's working for you long term, instead of we did this one webinar this one time.
How often do people would you suggest businesses do these webinars?
How often would I suggest a business actually do a live webinar?
Mm-hmm.
Every business has a different appetite for it. And so it really depends on their situation. We have some clients who will just do one, get it right, and then automate the process so that they don't have to do it again until that webinar stops performing for them. Now, ideally, I would say if you can create a new one once every couple months, then eventually you're just going to have this machine on your hands, and you're going to be in a really great position, which is, essentially what we've done for our business, and for the right clients, what we can help them do.
Great answer, yeah. And it's just, out of curiosity, I think people want to know, because it is, like we said, it is a lot of work, and so
sure.
That, we see that John Lee Dumas do a weekly one, so you know what I mean. So that
Yeah.
we have from weekly to maybe quarterly, so it just depends on the business owner.
Yeah.
Well, and I think people just need to be patient and not expect immediate results. They need to be very consistent and continue to do that, because that's the key. Is a lot of people will try something once or twice and then they give up just before they're ready for massive success.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you have to be willing to see it through. The first webinars that I did were not good. The first couple were very, janky. Let's use that word again.
It's a new word now, janky.
Every one of them got a little better. I know if I would have hired somebody at the time to help do it right the first time, I would have, been able to skip a lot of that learning curve. But if you're going to do it yourself, you have to be willing to put in the time to figure it all out. And the other thing I'd say about doing a weekly webinar like John Lee Dumas does is that what's the right way to say it? He's killing it with that program and those webinars. He's very transparent with what his income is for his business. He's got monthly income reports, and when the funnel that he's using to drive memberships in his Podcaster's Paradise program is generating somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 a month in sales, it's worth it to do the webinar every week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so it just depends on your situation, though. And so it becomes you got to prioritize it. He at some point saw this is working very well. Let's do them once a week, and let's prioritize that over some other things that we could spend our time on. But this is a thing that's killing it for us. So everyone can have the time if you figure out where to prioritize.
Right, definitely.
Exactly. Well, we'd love to leave our audience with, you've given us a ton of information. Let's narrow it down into what they could do to get maybe they've never done a webinar before, maybe they're experienced. What could they do in the next 24 hours that will take their webinar to the next level?
Okay. So this is for someone that has a webinar currently, or someone that hasn't really gotten started yet?
Let's do two separate ones, because some people have never done webinar, because you're right. I mean, it's kind of like there's that side that's never done a webinar, and the people that are, maybe tested webinars and do some.
Sure. So if you've never done a webinar and you want to start figuring out if it makes sense for you, boy, there's just so many resources out there. But I think the best thing to start doing is go find people in your space that you think are doing it well and watch what they're doing, okay? And maybe it doesn't have to be a direct competitor, all right? But maybe it's somebody in a parallel industry that's selling a similar type of product. If you were a coach to the salon owner industry, whatever you call that, maybe go out and find another coach that targets a different type of business that you know is successful with webinars, and watch what they do. and watch it from a standpoint of modeling your webinars along those lines and just taking best practices from those people and utilizing them yourself. That doesn't mean copying and word for word trying to mimic what they do, because you need to be yourself at the same time. But it's a powerful thing to piggyback on other people who are successfully doing things, you know. And there's a lot of people that talk about that stuff in business. And so I think actually, whether you haven't done webinars yet or you're already doing them and trying to up your game, that is one of the best. That's one of the best ways to continue improving. I mean, just the stuff I was talking about with John's webinar. You know, this interview seems to be as much about him as it is me. But
I'm sure
but that's all
thank you
good.
for that.
Yeah, sure. But that same thing. I'm watching webinars like his so that we can continue improving and that we can stay on the cutting edge, to continue seeing what other smart people are doing with webinars and how can we integrate those smart things they're doing into the campaigns we're running for ourselves and our clients.
Great. Very good information, and I hope everybody takes action and kind of moves their direction into using webinars some way or another. So I'm going to have Kimmy finish up.
Yeah, definitely. We want to thank Josh Turner again for coming on the show. And Josh, where can people connect with you? What's the best place to connect and start engaging with you?
I mean, there's so many places we're all supposed to be right now, but I'll just say just go to Webinarli.com or linkedselling.com, or look me up on LinkedIn. Just search for Josh Turner, and you'll know me when you see me there in the list.
That's awesome. And
well, thank you.
we'll have all the links and everything too on our blog post. And
great.
We certainly appreciate you coming on the show today.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Josh.